For as long as Native Americans have inhabited the Great Plains, they have lived in harmony with the American bison. To them, the bison were not just game, but were also incredibly culturally significant, almost akin to relatives. They lived alongside them, hunting them for meat, using their hides for tents and clothing, and their bones for weapons and accessories. However, they never hunted more than they needed, knowing that the bison were vital to their livelihoods. During the 19th century, with the expansion of settlers into the West, the Native Americans' primary source of food and sustenance was nearly hunted to extinction. Due to the high demand for bison leather, many settlers professionally hunted bison herds, shipping their skins to be processed in the East and Europe. The expansion of railroads also contributed to the decline of the bison population, as the construction of tracks destroyed their natural habitats. Additionally, railroad companies employed hunters to kill any wild bison herds near their tracks to prevent potential damage to trains or delays caused by bison lying on their tracks. While the construction of these railroads also made transportation of bison hides easy and cheap, facilitating the whole business. As a result, many people were encouraged to hunt bison from moving trains. The train would slow down, and hunters would shoot at the bison from the windows. Bison hunts were also endorsed and carried out by the US Army, which saw the slaughter of the bison as a way to starve the Native American population and force them onto reservations. Thus, bison hunting became not just a means of controlling the bison population, but also a tool for controlling the Native American populations. Bison hunting also became a popular sport, with people from the East traveling great distances to witness and take part in these hunts. The bison were mainly hunted for their hides, tongues, and bones, while the rest of the carcasses were often left to rot. The plains became littered with the decaying remains of bison that once numbered between 30 and 60 million. After extensive hunting efforts, the population dwindled to as low as 1,000 or several hundred bison. Eventually, bison hunting was outlawed, and both private and government organizations undertook successful conservation efforts to save the species from extinction. The photo used in the meme shows a massive pile of bison skulls, taken at the Michigan Carbon Works in Michigan in 1892. The skulls were waiting to be ground into fertilizer or charcoal for sugar refining. As bison numbers rapidly declined, hunters who once made a living selling bison hides were forced to sell their bones, which were shipped to factories to be used as fertilizer and sugar refining, or even made into fine china. In late 2008 and early 2009, 9 people died, and 714 fell ill from food poisoning, caused by eating products containing contaminated peanuts, supplied by the Peanut Corporation of America. The actual number of cases was believed to be much higher. The source of this Salmonella outbreak was traced by the CDC and FDA to peanut butter and peanut paste produced at PCA's processing plant in Blakely, Georgia. This contamination led to the largest and most expensive food recall in US history, as PCA supplied numerous off-brand and store-name companies involved in peanut butter, peanut cookies, and any products containing peanut paste or peanut-based ingredients. Over 3,900 products from more than 361 companies were recalled, including school lunches and even female emergency meals. The peanut industry suffered a loss of approximately $1 billion, stemming both from the direct impact of the recall and the widespread fear of consuming peanut-based products caused by the outbreak. As the government investigated PCA's facilities to determine the source of the contamination, they uncovered numerous unsanitary conditions, including mold growing on the ceilings and walls, dead insects near peanuts, rodent infestations, and more. It was also revealed that on several occasions, PCA had conducted several tests on their products that returned positive results for Salmonella, but they shipped the products anyway. Sometimes even after retesting showed continued contamination. In 2014, PCA owner and CEO Stuart Purnell and his brother, food broker Michael Purnell, were both found guilty of several criminal charges. Stuart was sentenced to 28 years in prison, the longest sentence ever handed down in a US foodborne illness case, with Michael being sentenced to 20 years. Georgy Ivanov Markov was a Bulgarian writer and playwright, known for criticizing the communist government of Bulgaria at the time. Eventually, he moved to the UK, where he continued voicing his criticisms of the regime on the Bulgarian section of the BBC World Service broadcast in Radio Free Europe. On September 7, 1978, Markov was waiting at a bus stop to take a bus to his job at the BBC. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain, like an insect bite or sting, on the back of his right thigh. As he turned around, he saw a man picking up an umbrella from behind him before disappearing into a cab. Markov, still feeling that the pain had not subsided, examined the area and found a small red pimple at the site. He mentioned the incident to a colleague and his wife. Later that evening, he developed a fever and had to be hospitalized. He died 4 days later in the hospital. Initially, the cause of death was reported as septicemia, blood poisoning. However, because Markov had previously expressed fears of being poisoned, a thorough autopsy was conducted. The doctor noticed the red mark on his thigh and cut out a tissue sample, which was sent for further examination at the Porton-Down Chemical and Biological Weapons Laboratory. There, the chief medical officer was surprised to find a tiny metal pellet in the tissue sample. The pellet, measuring 0.067 inches in diameter, had 2 holes drilled through it. It was hypothesized that a poison had been inserted into both holes, with the pellet being covered by a sugary membrane to keep the poison contained. This membrane would have melted at body temperature once injected, releasing the poison. Although the pellet contained no traces of any specific poison, the doctors concluded, based on its small size and Markov's symptoms, that the poison used must have been ricin, a highly potent biological toxin that does not show up in typical toxicity reports and has no known antidote. It was believed that the pellet had been delivered by the umbrella Markov saw the man pick up from the ground. The umbrella was a modified device containing a pneumatic mechanism designed to inject the pellet into the body. 10 days before Markov's assassination, another Bulgarian defector, Vladimir Kostov, was at a Paris metro station when he suddenly heard a sound like an air gun and felt a pain in his back. Unlike Markov, Kostov survived the attempt on his life, but was hospitalized for 12 days. A similar pellet was found in his body. Rana Plaza was an 8-floor commercial building in Bangladesh, located in Savar, that housed a bank, apartments, and several garment factories. It was built in 2006 on a former pond that had been filled in. Originally a 4-floor structure, the last 3 to 4 floors were added later without proper permits or supporting walls. The building was not designed to withstand the heavy weight and vibrations of machinery, and was therefore not intended for factory use. On April 23, 2013, several large cracks were discovered throughout the building, which were reported on by a local TV channel. The building was evacuated, and the banks and shops on the lower floors were temporarily closed. Despite this, the building's owner reassured the media that the cracks did not pose any danger, and instructed the workers to return the next day. Along with this announcement, factory management threatened to withhold a month's pay, or even fire workers if they did not return the following day. Under pressure, the workers at the garment factories returned to work, believing it would be business as usual. The morning of April 24, 2013, began with a power outage in the building, and the diesel generators had to be started. As usual, the vibrations from the generators reverberated through the building, but this time, they were followed by rumbling and crashing noises. The workers attempted to rush toward the exits, but it was too late. The building's structural collapse had already begun, and the entire 8 floors collapsed onto themselves, leaving only the ground floor intact. At the time of the collapse, more than 3,000 workers were inside the building. A search and rescue effort was launched by the government of Bangladesh, with the UN offering to assist by sending their specialized search and rescue coordination group. However, the Bangladesh government initially rejected the offer, despite claims by the government that the area's rescue services were well equipped. The reality was different. Most of the rescue volunteers were ill-equipped, and at one point, sparks from cutters accidentally started a fire, which further hampered rescue efforts. After 19 days, the rescue efforts were concluded. The confirmed death toll was 1,134 people, with 2,500 others injured. Following the collapse, 38 people involved with the building were officially charged with murder, including the building's owner, Sohail Rana. Rana, however, attempted to evade authorities and escape to India after the collapse, but was found 4 days later near the India-Bangladesh border. He was charged with multiple crimes and sentenced to 3 years for charges of corruption related to unreported income. His murder trial is still ongoing.